Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be using our Tesla coil to create high voltage alternating current sparks in a vacuum. Those of you who have seen other videos featuring our Tesla coil know that we're always searching for ways to make bigger and better sparks. So how is using a vacuum going to help us make bigger and better sparks with our Tesla coil? To answer that, we have to take a closer look at what exactly electrical sparks are, how they're created, and how they work. When we create an electrical spark in the air, what we are actually doing is we are ionizing the air to create plasma. Sparks are made of plasma. Air, like everything else, is made of atoms. Let's say that this represents an atom. The washer in the middle of the atom represents the atom's nucleus. The nucleus is made of protons and neutrons and has a positive charge. The pennies represent electrons. They orbit around the nucleus and they have a negative charge. Now my finger is going to play the role of high voltage electricity. When high voltage electricity encounters an atom, what it can do is to actually knock one of the electrons out of its orbit and separate it from the rest of the atom. So what you end up with is a free electron. The atom's nucleus, along with its remaining electrons, is called an ion, and this is where the term ionization comes from. Air is a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen atoms. When we ionize air, we apply a strong high voltage electrical force. This knocks one of the electrons from one or more atoms out of its orbit. This electron can go up and run into another atom, which knocks one of its electrons free. And this starts a whole chain reaction where electrons are being knocked free from their orbit and running into other atoms. And what you end up with is a mixture of positively charged ions and negatively charged electrons. This is referred to as plasma. So if you're a fan of big sparks like I am, you love ionization of air. Ionization of air does a couple really cool things for us. First of all, ionization emits energy in the form of light. So the better or more ionization we've got, the brighter spark we've got. Also, ionization of air makes the air electrically conductive. So the better ionization we got, the more conductive the air is, and the longer spark we're going to get. So, how do we improve ionization? Well, one way would be to add more electrical power. You could add higher voltage electricity or more current. Unfortunately, we're sort of at our budgetary limits with our Tesla coil right now, and so we got to find another way to do this. Fortunately, about 100 some odd years ago, a German scientist named Friedrich Paschen discovered that air ionizes better in lower air pressure. This, of course, to only up to a point. If we lower the air pressure too much, then there won't be enough oxygen or nitrogen atoms to ionize. So in order to get a low pressure environment to make sparks in, we built ourselves a little vacuum chamber. This is just a simple little thing, came together pretty quick. The main body of the vacuum chamber is a piece of vinyl tubing with a 1.5 inch interior diameter. And on each end, we've plugged the ends with a couple of rubber plugs. These are all available at our local home improvement center at a pretty reasonable price. With each of the plugs, we drilled a hole in the plug and then inserted a piece of wire or a metal rod made from a coat hanger. So we got that one here and one right there. Inside, these are going to serve as our electrodes. And if you look inside the tube here, I don't know if you can see it, but these electrodes are separated by a gap of air of about 5 inches. We also added some support tubes inside the main body of the vacuum chamber so that the tube won't get squished down when we apply the vacuum. On one of the rubber stoppers, we also drilled another hole and inserted another smaller vinyl tube. If we follow this, it comes up here and attaches to our vacuum pump. This is how we're going to make our vacuum. We also added a Y junction here and a valve that we can use to release the vacuum. So all that's left to do now is to attach our Tesla coil to our vacuum chamber so that we can make sparks in a vacuum. We attach the 2 ends of the wire that make up the secondary coil on our Tesla coil. We attach these to the electrodes on the vacuum tube. One there, one there. Now we're all set. All we have to do is turn on the vacuum pump to create a vacuum in our vacuum chamber, and then turn on the power in the Tesla coil and sit back and enjoy the light show.